and children, attacking unarmed Dakota men because of the hatred, because of the anger, and the, well, I guess the shock that Dakota people would actually rise up and attack white settlers. And this is the place, the concentration camp in Mankato, where Dakota men were held in that winter of 1862 and 63. And the orders actually did come down from President Lincoln on December 6th, and he had narrowed the number down from over 300 down to 39, and one more Dakota man was pardoned at the last minute. And then on the day after Christmas, December 26, 1862, 38 Dakota men were hanged in what remains the largest mass simultaneous hanging from one gallows in world history. So in Minnesota, in 1862, the good Christians of southern Minnesota celebrated the birth of their Savior, Jesus Christ, one day, and the next day woke up to cheer the mass hanging of Dakota warriors. You could be a good Christian in Minnesota in 1862 and still believe in extermination and forced removal of the original inhabitants. The women and children were also forcibly removed from the Lower Sioux area to Fort Snelling, where they were kept in the winter of 1862 and 63. And this is a map showing the approximate route. It was about 150 miles over 7 days in November of Minnesota. You know what it's like here in November. And without adequate clothing, without adequate shelter, without adequate food, predominantly women and children, and elderly people, and a few men who were considered the friendliest to white interests. On the way, we have stories that Dakota people were paraded through the white towns in the gauntlet, similar to what you saw in the Harper Weekly's print. But we have stories about scalding water being poured on the women and children as they went by from second-story windows on the main streets of these towns. There were stories about women, elderly women, who just wanted to maintain their modesty as they relieved themselves and left the caravan or were shot as a consequence. There were stories of babies ripped out of mothers' arms and their heads bashed on the ground. I had a grandmother who was stabbed in the stomach by a soldier with a saber at the time because she couldn't understand the orders he was barking at her in English. So these are the stories or the narratives that our people carry about this time in our history. And then when they got to the concentration camp at Fort Snelling, where they were held, the stories only get worse. There are stories about young girls, 12-year-olds, being raped and then found later with their throats slit and their faces down in the sand. Stories about people being buried from sunup to sundown on a daily basis. And my grandmother, well, this is a picture of the replica of Fort Snelling that sits there today, but there were, the concentration camp was down in the floodplain below, and the fort sits on top, and there were cannons from the turrets aimed down at the concentration campsite. One of my grandmothers talked about how one of the stories in her family involved a family that had just buried a baby, but because the ground was frozen, they couldn't dig the grave very deep, and later saw one of the dogs who had dug up the baby, carrying the baby around in its mouth, the dead baby. Conditions were harsh. There were outbreaks of disease like measles in particular, poor food, and lots of suffering. But if you keep in mind Alexander Ramsey's call for extermination or forced removal, then it would make sense that Minnesotans would not be satisfied with the mass hanging or the imprisonment of these populations of people. So in the spring of 1863, plans were made to push Dakota people out of our homeland forever. And our populations were put on boats that went down the loss of life and the extent of suffering at that time. But even that was not enough. And so in the summer of 1863, punitive expeditions were sent into Dakota Territory, and the objective was to hunt down the fleeing Dakota. And so soldiers would ride into a village, they'd kill as many people as they could right off the bat. Our stories mainly focus on Dakota men who tried to fend off the soldiers just long enough for their women and children to escape behind them. Those who could be tracked down were taken into custody and then brought later to imprisonment camps with the rest of the population. And the objective at the time was to destroy the population. So it didn't matter if it was men, women, or children. Once they had done the initial killing, they would round up all of the supplies. They would take all the teepee coverings, lodge poles, they would put them in big piles. They'd take all the food sources, food supplies, put them in big piles, and burn them. And so there are accounts about hundreds of tons of food being burned, being destroyed in this process, so that the Dakota population would not be able to eat the following winter. Not only that, but even their supplies were damaged. So if there were metal pots that were around, the soldiers would puncture holes in them, or they would throw them into a deep lake so that they couldn't be retrieved, and making it much more difficult for populations to even cook their foods that they would need to survive. But even that was not enough. And so in the summer of 1863, the good Minnesotans decided to implement a bounty policy on scalps for Dakota people. So those bounties started at $25 and eventually reached $200. And this is a picture from the front page of the Winona Daily Republican from Thursday, September 24th, 1863. You can probably see at the bottom, it says the state reward for dead Indians has been increased to $200 for every redskin sent to purgatory. This sum is more than the dead bodies of all the Indians east of the Red River are worth. So if there were any Dakota people who dared to try to come back to our homeland, the bounty system was in place to ensure that they would be killed, their scalps taken. And in 1863, $200 was enough to buy a 160-acre homestead. And so with one scalp, with one more Indian gone, white settlers in Minnesota could ensure the future of their own family and many of their future generations. And indeed, the leader of Dakota resistance, Little Crow, we call him Waziyatawin, which means his red nation, had an extra price on his head for $500, and that bounty was actually paid out in 1863 to a white father and son, Nathan and Chauncey Lamson, who killed Little Crow while he was picking raspberries with his son in July of 1863. They come back. Now, if the assaults on Dakota people had ended then, our populations would have been devastated, but we probably would have recovered. We probably would have had enough of our culture, our teachings, our elders, skilled people within our communities to continue on. But this was only the first wave, and it got worse afterwards because the next group, the next segment of the population to be targeted by the United States government was the most vulnerable segment of the population, the children. So boarding schools were set up throughout the United States by the end of the 19th century, and it was part of a federally mandated system for education for Indigenous youth across the board. And there were schools, places in Minnesota, places like